What is up, YouTube guys? So this weekend was a really incredibly fun Mythic Championship to watch. Those of you guys that didn't get to tune in, Mythic Championship 6, the final like all paper Magic big tournament going on for the rest of this year at least, took off, and we saw some, of course, the decks we kind of expected to see. A lot of food. However, I did see a couple decks in there that made it to the top 8 that kind of surprised me. That looked like a lot of fun to play, and were just blatantly creative, which is what we really like to see in Magic. So actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and just kind of step straight into it. Shout out to Andre Strosky for taking the victory overall in the finals. It ended up being, of course, Simic Food versus Simic Food in the mirror match there. Kind of looking at it overall. We'll look at it from this angle and from a different angle. Going into the top 8 here, Simic Food. We did have a Selesnya Adventure, which I was actually really excited about. Simic Food, Golgari Adventure as well. That one seemed pretty spicy from Eli Cassis. And Sultai Food, Simic Food. So as you kind of expected, yeah, there was a lot of food. Okay, so let's take a look at the decks that went into it. At least the top 8 decks. First one being Sultai Food. Obviously, you know, what you kind of expected from a Sultai Food deck. You got your engines like Wicked Wolf, Krasis, Gilded Goose, Oko, Thief of Crowns, Nissa. You know, all the key ingredients. Actually, before we dive into that, let's kind of talk about an article I posted on magic.dg that kind of talked about before the event happened, what we kind of expected to see, and some of the this is the preview to it, and then see how much of a result that ended up panning out to be. In my opinion, it pretty much did. I mean, the key engines to any of the food decks: Wicked Wolf, Gilded Goose, Oko Thief, Goose allowing that turn 2 ramp into Oko, be able to start, you know, becoming a pain early on. And of course, Nissa, who shakes the world. Generally speaking, once she comes out, once she's able to resolve on the battlefield, if you can't answer her quick, things escalate even quicker. Hydroid Krasis is keeping up card draw, keeping up life gain, believe it or not, especially with the amount of sack decks we've been seeing. Paradise Druid, including the ramp. Something we're going to talk about Paradise Druid during this video is going to be its effect with Massacre Girl. And then Once Upon a Time, everyone... Actually, I did see some table plays of food deck that was one, I forgot what his name is off the top of my head, but he ran a food deck without a Once Upon a Time, which is kind of impressive. So all right, so those are the key engines, and we of course see them here. Wicked Wolves, Nissas. Some spiciness we saw was Vrashka. I'm actually starting to see it more and more used in the meta for Sultai Food, especially with her ability not only to take on the mirror food matchups, being able to clear Okos, clear a lot of those early game plays that kind of help it ramp fast, but it also kind of helps deal with some of those sacrifice decks, things that were Mayhem Devil, those oven combos, cat. You know, generally speaking, those sack decks can outplay a lot of these food decks if they get the good early curve. So we're starting to see a lot more of Golgari Queen. Liliana's kind of a spicy one too. I saw her a couple times throughout the stream event from the Magic channel, and so yeah, so this is your standard full. I mean, we're not gonna go into too much. I'm sure you guys are fully well aware of how food decks work, as I'm sure you've seen on the ladder a bunch of times. This one we actually kind of expected to see at a Sultai was more Casualties of War. It was even predicted before, Casualties of War being one of the more Sultai sides of it, versus some mass manipulation being utilized as well. Casualties of War, it was ran as expected, same stuff, mainly the only key difference there. No Lilies, no Vrashkas. And let's take a look at the Golgari Adventure. Now this one was a really spicy one that I was excited. It was one of those ones that you're like, all right, I want to see him beat the food. I want to see it. He runs. This is actually a card that I'm surprised I don't see more of. I mean, it's obviously played a bunch and it is used a lot, but I feel like with how good it is, it should be used even more. But I also get why not. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, you lose 2 life, and you get a creature out of it, 3 mana. A card like this, I kind of expected to be more like 4 CMC, but hey, it's 3, so I'm, like I said, I'm kind of. I mean, I get it with the life lost, but still, Massacre Girl. She's what's you really utilize to help clear a lot of these food decks. Kind of go back to one of these any of these other ones. Her ramp coming off of Paradise Druid, I said we were going to talk about earlier, with the 2/1 being the -1, being able to bounce off Druid into kill Goose, into going into a Wicked Wolf unless it's eating the food, etc., etc. So it's a great use for board wiping your opponent's, already established battlefield, especially going against the food when they, generally speaking, have a lot of gooses and Paradise Druids, stuff like that, just kind of laying around. That's a great way to help clear the board. Edgewall Innkeeper is your card draw engine, as well as another way to help proc Massacre Girl. It's going to allow you to keep drawing cards with you casting things like Lovestruck Beast, Order Midnight, Murderous Rider, etc., etc. Foulmire Knight, absolutely huge card draw engine. I personally am a really big fan of Rankle. I've been running it, in my stack deck, and yeah, it's one of those cards. At first, I saw and was like, I don't know how I feel about Rankle, but then the more I played with him, I was like, it's hard to not run him too. Liliana, of course, Rashka, same reasons. Legion's End, great for kind of clearing up a bunch of those elk that might have ended up on the battlefield, or Goose or whatever. And yeah, so this was a really fun Golgari adventure deck that we saw. And Selesnya adventure, this one I saw a lot of momentum happening with it, and it really kind of forced going wide a lot more. Especially your ability to kind of rebuy cards, running like Shepherd of the Flock into Luxodon, kind of getting it bigger and whatnot. Giant Killer being able to help remove like those bigger Krasis or even Wolves or whatnot. Godmother trying to go up top and wide. And we got a little bit of removal too with the Conclave Tribunal. Yeah, overall, it is kind of what I expected to see out of a Selesnya adventure. It was a lot of fun to watch. It was one of those decks that you're like, come on, let's get it. Gideon, being able to sideboard in, and as well as we got Eternal Oketra. I can never say it right. I don't think we're gonna look through all of the exact foods. Some of the key ones I do want to bring up, like from Strosky's, was Gadwick, the Wizened. That's something before the Mythic Championship we didn't really see a lot of. And now I'm sure we're going to. When he enters the battlefield, you draw X card. You draw however many cards you paid for, and then here's the key one. Whenever you cast a blue spell, tap target non-land permanent an opponent controls. So kind of help in the mirror matchup there, forcing your opponent to tap creatures permanents that they would normally hit you in the face with. So that really, as well as it could even be mana. You even tap their mana creatures if they've got like a Nissa out or something. And mass manipulation, of course. I think we briefly touched on it, but just being able to take their planeswalkers and take their big creatures just up front is just, especially in a Simic deck when you're getting quite a bit of mana, especially right after you get like Nissa out and you're able to tap for a lot. It's just a strong card. Something that we've been kind of seeing a lot more use out of is Aether Gust, and of course, what I'm actually surprised isn't being talked about a lot more. I know we saw some rumblings from some of the players about the upcoming ban and restricted list, including Veil of Summer. Veil of Summer is one of those cards right now that is kind of forcing control decks to not be played. we haven't seen Esper's not going crazy like it did during Dominaria, or even something as simple as Dimir or whatever. We're not really seeing much control, really, at all. I mean, we see some of the tempo, like the green blue, but that's about. I mean, that's about as control as you're gonna get. And yes, I mean that is considered control still, but that's about it. I mean, it's easy to, in my opinion, it's a real pain in the butt deck to compete against, but that's really it. It's really, you just gotta learn how to play the tempo, and you're good. Veil of Summer is really kind of helping stop any of those from coming up on the rise. I don't think it's really ban worthy how people are saying. Like, I get why they're saying it. I get the archetype, like it's pretty much shutting down the whole archetype. But at the same time, I think if Simic food was weakened, if it was nerfed, I think Veil's gonna be seeing a lot less use. I don't think it's gonna shut down the control engine altogether. I don't think it singularly does that. Yes, it's a great, super cheap counter. However, it's also paired with a lot of extremely powerful weapons that you would normally, you know, counter with. So yes, I see why people feel as though Veil should be. I don't know. I think it's just really highly backed by a lot of very powerful cards as well. Yes, it is absolutely strong. I'm not at all disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that I kind of feel like if it didn't have Nissa, Oko, Gilded Goose, like all of these weapons for it to really fuel into it, then I think it would be used a little bit less. Then we might start seeing it more in like Gruul or some of the more stompy boys, kind of keeping them on the battlefield to keep smacking you, versus something like this. I could kind of consider food decks being slightly on the control side with Oko, you know, kind of help regulate what stays and what's not on the battlefield and whatnot. As well as your Brazen Borrowers. We actually saw one of the matchups versus, I forget the name of the deck. It was 3 color with red with the, what are they called? The Cavalier. It was a Cavalier deck during the Mythic Championship on one of the main desks. Brazen, the guy literally just had Questing Beast and Brazen Borrower. He had Questing Beast on the battlefield, and anything this guy would cast, he had 3 copies of Brazen in his hand. He just kept bouncing it back, and then hit him in the face with the Questing Beast. And then if he had the mana, he would go ahead and cast the Borrower, and then it kept getting bounced back and forth. And literally the only 2 cards the guy spent the whole, and then he won both matches. It was insane. Brazen Borrower was such a good card too. It's just all around. The food deck, not at all. Doesn't surprise me. Majority of all of these are all food, whether it be Sultai or Simic. Simic, I do feel as though is the stronger between the Sultai and the Simic. I see why people run Sultai, and the removal does feel a lot more comfortable, in my opinion. And we even got Voracious Hydra and stuff like that. But I feel like the Simic aspect is just the little bit more control side of it is just so good. Aether Gust being able to just help control 1 copy negate. Reef Soul, I don't remember if we saw a whole lot of coming out of the sideboard. Thrashing Brontodon, super strong, especially the matchups where we saw things like Sorcerer's Spyglass come out to help kind of regulate your Oko or your Nissa or whatever it is that's going on there. We did see Thrashing see a lot of play, but otherwise, I mean, my prediction for the upcoming banned and restricted list, if Oko Thief of Crowns was not, if he was not the face of Eldraine, I think it would be without a doubt him on the chopping block, probably being taken off. I feel like there's plenty of interaction for Planeswalkers. I don't think it's necessary really to ban any of them. But at the same time, being that this is the only deck we're really seeing be successful in competitive play, I see the value in changing that up. I don't want to be on the bandwagon of just everyone says ban this card and let's go ahead and just go ban it. I mean, it's got to have value in the ban, such as not a lot of interaction with it. But I mean, I feel as though there's plenty of interaction with Planeswalkers. Even at turn 2, we have things like Noxious, Grasp, and whatnot, as we saw. But with that being said, if we also could take away some of the weapons from the only archetype that's really winning at this level, I kind of see the argument there in that side of it. So Oko, I do think is going to be on the chopping block. I don't know if he's actually going to be banned, because that would be incredibly embarrassing for... I kind of see it as a saving face situation. Huge mad props to Wizards if they do ban it, despite him being the face of Eldraine. That goes to show a lot of integrity. But at the same time, I also kind of see a big company being like, we made this guy the face of our of our set. We're gonna look ridiculous if we go and ban him. I kind of see that. I kind of see that happening. I mean, let's be real. But either way, I kind of see it both ways. Another one is I kind of see Gilded Goose happening. I don't feel as though it's incredibly OP, obviously, but as far as the ramp engine itself, it's one of those things where we've seen cards that are turn 2 cast for any color, and I guess going into turn 3, whereas this one is turn 1, turn 2 you're able to go for any color. That's not really the hard aspect of it. It's the food token generation on top of being able to do that mana, as well as being able to kind of feed into Wicked Wolf and make him even stronger. So I don't know. I don't see Gilded Goose being banned. I know a lot of people right now are saying Gilded Goose is on the chopping block alongside Oko. It is incredibly powerful. I don't think it being banned is really gonna. That's what I'm looking for. It's not gonna really aggressively attack the food synergy as bad as everyone. I mean, yes, it's not as easy to get a turn 2 Oko then, but you're still getting a turn 3 Oko then at that point. And he's still difficult to deal with. And Paradise Druids, just fine. I think those are the two main ones that people are looking at. More on the down low, people were talking a little bit more about Veil of Summer, which, like I said, I feel like the best ban, if we're gonna be going around banning cards, I feel like Oko Thief of Crowns that's the one to do it. I can kind of see the value in Gilded Goose being banned, but at the same time, it's one of those. Is that the real enemy here? Is he really the enemy, or is it Oko? Nista's incredibly powerful too, but like I said, either way, Planeswalkers, they have interaction. By the time you're getting Nista out, you have your interaction out. You can still protect it with Aether Gust, Veil of Summers, negates, whatnot, but still. Anyway, let's go ahead and step back into my office. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. I know we didn't really have necessarily gameplay in this episode. I just want to talk about what we saw at the Mythic Championship 6. It was actually an incredibly fun event to watch, despite all the food decks, which we went into it knowing. We knew there was gonna be a lot of food decks, and you know, it didn't fail. So, and yes, I didn't show the numbers on the overall amount of the deck that was played. We can actually kind of go over that real quick before I forget. It was the top 3 most decks played was food decks, so that's just how it was. This is how it was. Yeah, I don't have it up right now. I did look at it though. I think the meta percent was about 50% win rate for the top 3. The top 3 most played decks were food. They all, except for two of them were 49%, and Simic was 50%, I believe, win rates. But those are the biggest ones. We don't really have to. I don't think we really have to bring that up. But anyway, appreciate y'all for tuning in. It was fun. It was an awesome matchup. And shout out, like I said, shout out to all the guys who got to compete. And see you again very soon.